So hello, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is John Dodds, and I am the President and Chief Operating Officer of Kencor, which is an American elevator group company. I'm also the chair of the NAEC Member Services Committee, and I want to welcome everyone to this third quarter town hall discussion in what has become a series of dialogues with various leaders within the vertical transportation industry. These conversations over the year have focused on topics that have been identified by NAEC members as important and significant ones for their business. The topics for the town hall sessions have been assembled from an all-member survey into topic clusters that range from immediate needs that you face daily to the longer-term objectives relating to successfully sustaining your businesses. I'd like to thank Sean Madden for his continued help and support with the Town Hall Series initiative, and of course, Trip Cook with NAEC for all of his assistance as well. As always, the Member Services Committee is eagerly looking for feedback on this series of events. So if you have any feedback in general, or if you have ideas about topics for future Town Hall events, please reach out to Trip, and he can be reached at trip@naec.org or by calling the main office. Today's topic is about creating a culture of safety, and this event will last for an hour and a half, ending at 3:30. Today's panelists will discuss how we all strive to put safety first for our businesses, employees, and our customers. The topic of safety has grown in importance, creating whole sub-industries dedicated to safety and training. However, even with all the information and resources at our fingertips, the key to implementing these best practices and using the resources available is to instill a company value of safety that is as strong as any value held within your establishment. Today's panel of elevator, escalator, and safety experts will go over some of the best ways to bring this culture of safety into your businesses. Before I introduce the panelists, I would like to provide a few updates on important NAEC activities and events. Our annual convention and exposition will be in the city of New Orleans in just over a month. The event will be held on October 4th through 7th. We currently have 156 exhibitors and nearly 1,000 registrations, more than a month out from the event. There are sponsorship opportunities still available, and complimentary passes to the expo are available for exhibitors to share with their customer base. We have a full agenda of presentations, panels, and extracurricular events planned. We are continuing to be vigilant by monitoring and processing the information coming from the leadership in New Orleans. We are adhering closely to the recommendations of the CDC and other mandates as published by both the state of Louisiana and the city of New Orleans. Hurricane Ida has impacted the city, but we have heard from the convention center and they have power, and the rest of the downtown area is coming back online. To keep from missing out, be sure to register at NAEC's website. The NAEC staff is also prepping for the data migration for the 2022 membership directory, which will be in cooperation with Elevator World as a joint release with their source book. That data in our member database is from the profiles that you, the NAEC members, provide to the association, and can be updated using the link shown on the slide by Trip. We need these profiles updated as soon as possible to start the directory creation. So if you have not updated your profile, some of your details or principal staff might need to be revisited. So please help us make the directory complete by updating your profile. Additionally, the deadline on voting for our board of directors nominees, as well as recent bylaws changes, is September 1st. There will not be any on-site voting during the general business session, as all voting is now being done digitally. As an association, we need a 10% quorum to close out this year's elections. If you have not done so, please be sure to get your votes in by the deadline. Lastly, we're in membership renewal season for the association. If you haven't yet renewed your membership, please do so you can continue to take advantage of the association benefits and events. Okay, so with those housekeeping items out of the way, let's move forward with our town hall event. As in the past, we will be going through our panel individually in roughly 15-minute segments. And when all of the panelists have had a chance to speak, we will ask some questions from the audience attendees. As you have questions, write them in the Q&A window, and we will circle back to as many of them as time allows at the end. Please note with your questions, if it is a question that is specific for one panelist, or if it's a general question for the entire panel. We will try to be mindful of everyone's time today and wrap up no later than 3:30. I would like to start first by introducing the first member of our panel, and someone who is well known to the NAEC community, David Smart. David is NAEC's Global Education and Safety Officer and has been a respected leader within the elevator industry for some time. He has over 40 years of experience assembling and guiding teams in all aspects of the elevator industry. An expert in code compliance of conveyances, he is trained and experienced in ASME, ANSI, OSHA, and other state and federal safety regulations. And he has experience in designing and facilitating training sessions on operational safety. David has provided volunteer leadership to NAEC by serving on its board of directors and previously chairing the Education and Safety Committee. David is also the 2016 recipient of the prestigious NAEC William C. Sturgeon Award for Excellence in the Industry. David, thanks for joining us, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Okay, what is a safety culture? The concept of the safety culture has gained more attention in the elevator industry as more safety practitioners see the influence that workers' attitudes and behaviors have on the causes and effects of the workplace incidents. Negative and reactive safety cultures are less effective at preventing workplace safety incidents because a negative environment inhibits communication, and reactive method only documents the accident and does not prevent it. In the elevator industry, which is a high-risk profession with a pressure to perform timely intertwined into our safety culture, workers often feel that the supervisors and company managers have little concern for their well-being. In a negative safety culture, it is not uncommon for workers to feel pressured to bend or break safety rules or safe work procedures to meet deadlines or production goals. A negative safety culture paired with reactive safety culture ensures that sooner or later the system will fail and the workers are supposed to protect, and safety professionals have begun to see this. So what are the benefits of a positive safety culture? A major indicator of a positive safety culture is the quality and effectiveness of its communication. Good communication in the workplace plays a critical role in achieving safety goals and preventing incidents. When communication throughout all levels of an organization is strong, open, and meaningful, a positive safety culture follows. Positive safety cultures and proactive safety cultures work together to produce cause and consequence of fewer accidents, just as the negative safety cultures are both cause and consequence to produce reactive safety cultures of chasing the accidents rather than preventing them. There are 7 characteristics that are used for a positive safety culture. 1, nothing takes precedent over safety. 2, all employees have the same responsibility for safety. 3, the safety system is informed by the workers. 4, communication happens openly between the employees and management. 5, management must play an active role in demonstrating safety as its top priority. 6, stop work authority for safety is not met with negativity. If an employee feels as if safe work practices are an obstacle to getting their task done correctly, on time, and without reprimand, the key word here is feels, they are less likely to follow the procedures. How do you get your workforce to feel the same safety priorities that you do? It'd be effective communication. Often, employees assume that there is more acceptable disregard safety than it was to miss the schedule. Most of the time, meeting a schedule over safety is implied and not stated. It is likely a casual comment from a superintendent or manager. It would be really great to have rails installed by the end of the week, being interpreted as it better be done. If employees are under the impression for any reason the safety rules must be broken to achieve the results that management wants, Any existing safety system, no matter how great, cannot protect them. So if your employees are continuing to take safety risks despite your focus on making safety a priority, you may need to evaluate how effective the communication is between your company's management and its workforce. Because sometimes the most innocent comment of urgency may influence workers to speed up, take shortcuts, neglect existing safety practices. If you want to keep your workforce safe, accountability is the key for all, not just the employee, but the management team as well. Complacency and ineffective safety-related communication can lead to lapses in accountability if your company has a negative safety culture. A positive safety culture shows concern for its employees. It shows there is a visible energy to get the root cause of an accident when it does happen and to spark positive change that does not blame or reprimand others. Of course, managers did care, but often they did not understand the importance of expressing that care. The managers that employees valued and trusted were those who talked to the people one-on-one, gathered their opinions, their concerns, and ideas, and acted on them. So not only do supervisors and managers must be good communicators, but they also have to take accountability and act on those issues. Seems simple. However, inconsistencies in the implementation of programs are all too prevalent in negative safety cultures. People were not disciplined for failing to use proper personal protective equipment, but they were punished for accidents. Managers and supervisors were walking through the job site without proper protection. Supervisors want employees to remind each other to wear the PPE, but employees felt that enforcing the rules, which is management responsibility, were not even following their own rules. Thus, employees felt management was sidestepping its responsibilities. Management should lead by example and not just talk the talk, but also walk the walk. In a positive safety culture, all personnel, regardless of the position, job description, or time spent at the work sites, have an equal responsibility in keeping themselves and each other safe, holding themselves and each other accountable. Even an apprentice should be able to remind a manager to put on those forgotten safety glasses without feeling intimidated because it is a safe thing to do. The manager should appreciate that the apprentice cares in a positive culture. Even if you think you have a great positive safety culture, your workers' input is critical to ensure it works to reduce incidents. Why? Because it needs to be in their language and suited to their needs and the pressures of their jobs. Workers will disregard official safe work procedures if they are difficult to understand, use technical vocabulary or jargon, or are in an entirely different language than what your employees speak. Your procedures also need to reflect the experience of your workers on the job. In a positive safety culture, safety systems and procedures represent the experiences and tasks of the workers realistically through their own input. Not including their input devalues the firsthand experience and expertise and maintains a cultural rift between them and their managers. This cultural rift further contributes to the poor communication and miscommunications that led to the safety incidents. So you have a period of incident-free work and you think your safety systems are up to par. Maybe so. Or are you going to wait for the next accident to put your practices back into question? Or can you make changes every day to assure that your system continues to be up to par and prevent incidents before they happen? The answer is yes, of course. You can make the changes to prevent accidents every day. How? 3 tools: communication, trust and accountability, and proactive practices. As an example of a proactive practice, more companies are integrating impairment tests into their workplaces to proactively assess and manage risks due to fatigue, illness, emotional distress, substance abuse, and more. Are you already using the drug testing? Impairment testing is the proactive practice that remedies the reactive nature of drug tests. Proactive practices such as impairment tests help ensure that the safety system is consistent state of accountability. A positive safety culture understands that an incident-free work is the result of continuous attention to improvement and proactive practices. In a positive safety culture, communication occurs openly between departments, members of the workforce, and management. Communication is not just one way and is always open and encouraged. Yes, more communication. It is important. A great way to prevent miscommunication, whether it is due to a misunderstanding of tone, language, vocabulary, or a perceived double standard, is to make sure that the communication is open and encouraged. Take, for example, a workforce with two supervisors. One says, wear your hard hat at all times. The other walks around the site with his bare bald head, blinding everyone. The workforce is left questioning how serious and necessary these safety practices really are. What do? You meet with the bald supervisor face to face. You make certain that you're on the same page about your safety practices. Then you both share the responsibility for enforcing these practices. When a workforce supervised differently, the workforce does not have a clear understanding about what exactly is expected of them. Having a meaningful open communication may require a better medium of communication. Many miscommunication issues were related to over-reliance on memos, bulletin boards, and emails in place of a face-to-face contact. People felt they didn't have time to have conversations, but the results of miscommunications sometimes ended up costing a lot more. An example that caused a lot of animosity occurred when a change is allowable from time allowance. Management and supervisors thought it properly sent out, but still no one knew about it. It had been posted for over a year on a bulletin board and other mediums, but no one had read it. It needs to be talked about at all levels within the organizations with input and feedback from all. We should never assume that letters, memos, or reports have communicated important information. A positive safety culture urges open communication to operate optimally in a singular direction that is clear to all throughout the company. It does not require the workforce to conform to the differing expectations of each supervisor overseeing them on a different job site, or even worse, not overseeing them at all. When management says they prioritize worker safety and then somehow communicate the opposite, the workforce begins to mistrust management and their intentions. It signals a program is lip service and not implementation. How do you demonstrate that you prioritize safety? You go to the work sites. You gain firsthand understanding of the work environment and what happens on the front line. Talk to your workers individually. Take interest in their tasks and safety concerns. Take their concerns seriously and act upon them. Realize that you can't understand the hazard of the jobs more than the workers facing these hazards daily. Employees perceive the lack of visibility presence as a lack of interest. Don't put the production ahead of the safety of the employees. When supervisors are on job sites, make them accountable for safety, not give them excuses they are too busy for that. Managers saw the responding to safety concerns and suggestions in a timely manner when was at the heart of the building trust and credibility. Negativity and reprimands are the most obvious indicators of a negative safety culture. Responding to a safety issue with punitive measures sends a ridiculous message. Don't hurt yourself or you'll get in trouble. When workers are afraid of getting in trouble, your safety culture can't take advantage of these mistakes to improve it. An example, a worker received an electrical shock but survived. Then no one came forward to admit they had failed to perform lockout tagout at the disconnect on the electrical switch as faulty because they knew it would mean days off without pay at best and dismissal at worst. Had management eased workers' fears of being reprimanded or punished for incidents and created a positive environment in which workers could come forward without fear, they could have understood the circumstances that led to the problem and learned how to avoid them in the future. Lead by example. Own up to your mistakes in front of your workers. Build trust with your workers so they are not afraid to confide in you. Communicate openly about your shared responsibility to identify and manage risks. Remember, there are three key factors when building a more positive safety culture: communication, responsibility, and proactiveness. Commitment to safety culture building is the glue that holds the system together as it becomes the product everyone relies on to go home at the end of the workday. Okay, so now we have committed to a positive safety culture after discussing it. What problems can we tackle? One of the best is utilizing the 9 safety absolutes and the training around them is a great start. They are as follows in this order: fall protection, electrical safety work practices, jumpers, lockout tagout, mechanical stored energy, car top access and egress, pit access and egress, false car running platforms, hoisting and ringing. These work practices should be followed by all companies regardless of their size or affiliation. The NAEC, NAEC, IUEC, NEEP, and the OSHA Alliance have made them the staple for the best practices in our industry. We are currently working together to develop language for companies to utilize that will improve their safety programs and have suggested them as a minimum safety standard to be adhered to within our industry. This effort aims to bring consistency to the industry safety programs for small companies as well as large companies. I talked about two supervisors earlier, supervised differently. There are also in development of minimum industry-based guidelines for training of new hires, OSHA 10 and 30-hour courses, processes and permit confined spaces, lockout, tagout, and many more. NAEC is here to work with our industry partners in the Alliance for our members. We plan to develop proper safety practices, training, and educate both contractors, employees, and suppliers on safety, educate them on policies, procedures, and help with engineering controls. The NAEC Education and Safety Committee team has been on the forefront of these things for its members for the last 20 years, and we will assist you in any way possible in your goal for a positive safety culture. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Dave. Question or follow-up on your presentation there.
Yes.
So in your opinion, what is the hardest part of the implementation kind of surrounding the creation of a positive safety culture? The slide that really stood out to me was the one there at the end where 1 in 6 wouldn't report a hazard. I mean, that's kind of scary, right? So how do you recommend that a company overcome that challenge of creating that positive safety culture?
Well, the biggest thing is to get your senior management to buy in and commit, not only to the cost, but practicing with actions and showing them that they care and communicate.
Okay, thank you, David. I appreciate that. Next, we are going to move on to our next panelist. I'd like to now introduce Sandra Bulash from OSHA. Ms. Bulash is the labor liaison for OSHA in Region 6. She maintains communication with organized and unorganized workers, with committees on occupational safety and health groups, and with coalition groups to help them navigate OSHA's organizational structure or compliant procedures, and to assist them with health and safety programs. Ms. Bulash also furthers OSHA's mission in Region 6 as a record-keeping coordinator and as the acting Susan Harwood grant manager. She is an active member of the Elevator Industry Safety Partners Alliance. Prior to her current position with OSHA, Ms. Bulash was an industrial hygiene compliance officer, inspecting workplaces for safety and health hazards. Sandra, thank you for joining us, and I will turn the floor over to you.
Well, thank you, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My main purpose today is to inform you about the Elevator Industry Safety Partners Alliance, its purpose, history, and the projects we're working on to improve safety and health in your industry. But first, I'd like to say just a little bit about myself. Next, please. There we go.
It's coming up now, Sandra. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, next. Well, okay, there we go. A labor liaison, there aren't very many of us in the agency. And so what we like to think of ourselves as we're problem solvers. We meet with organized groups, unorganized groups, and excuse me, we're a bridge to people who are contacting OSHA. We also will help victims and the fatalities of victims in cases of serious accidents and fatalities. We help them navigate the OSHA system. And of course, if an employer contacts us, we'd assist you also. Next, please. When there's work-related, next please. There you go. When there are work-related issues regarding safety and health, we can work with the employees as well as the employer to help resolve conflicts. This assistance may be providing information about OSHA standards, how to file a complaint if an issue cannot be resolved informally, or the advantages of programs that improve safety and health for the benefit of everyone. We conduct outreach to inform workers and employers about improving safety and health, and we also work as team members on alliances such as yours. Next, please. So let's get into the alliance itself. What does it look like? The alliance will generate tools for everyone in the industry and the public to learn about the elevator industry and present training products everyone can access who want to improve their safety and health programs. This could be training or sample programs addressing various topics. The goal is to reduce injuries and fatalities. Next, please. The Alliance is developing an OSHA 10-hour and 30-hour training course for your industry. This means that OSHA certified train-the-trainer instructors in your industry will be able to teach your employees about standards that relate to your industry. Sharing injury, illness, and fatality data on an industry-wide basis will help refine the data for everyone. As for relationship building, I have seen our committees come together as an entire team, and in our committee, the best practices committee. These dialogues have been very beneficial. As an example of working with the agency, our committee was able to form a group to discuss false car compliance issues with OSHA subject matter experts in the national office. These dialogues help build collaboration for positive work together. Very important to us in OSHA is the cross-training of our OSHA personnel to recognize the conditions of work in the elevator industry. Next, please. So how did we get here to the Alliance? Well, this all really kind of started in 2012, 2013. There were some injuries and a fatality in the Philadelphia area. The local union there reached out to the local area office and the regional office saying they wanted help. So there was informal discussions about what kind of initiatives could be worked on together. And they mainly discussed falls and the OSHA's Focus 4. In 2015, the local there conducted some internal training for OSHA compliance officers in that area. And it kind of gathered momentum. There were more discussions in 2016, and then he had quarterly meetings discussing how to collaborate and improve workplaces to bring positive results for the industry. This kept going on, and by 2018, the informal collaboration of some employers, some associations, OSHA and the union, we got to the point where we had a formal meeting as a group, our first one. And the result of that group is everyone decided they would go forward, and to the point where we decided to establish a best practices committee. That actually started work in October of 2018, before the Alliance was signed. We met a number of times, and then on September the 5th, 2019, the Alliance was signed between the industry, the IUEC, and all 10 OSHA regions. Next, please. Here are our partners for the Alliance. We have NAEC, ECA, IUEC, NEEP, NEI, EIWPF, and of course, OSHA. These were the original partners, and all have remained in the Alliance for the duration thus far. Next, please. And here is the structure of the Alliance and how we all work together. Each partner has a point of contact who is a liaison between the Alliance and their organization. All 10 OSHA regions also have a point of contact for our organization. The implementation team for the Alliance consists of 2 and sometimes an alternate member, plus the OSHA members. Next, please. And then we get into committees. This is where the real action happens. This is where the work is done. Each committee has an OSHA facilitator for the group. And the first one is best practices. This is the group I spoke of earlier, and I'm the facilitator for best practices. Our group is tackling the 9 safety absolutes that your industry recognizes as work where significant hazards may exist if not mitigated. And Dave mentioned those earlier, so I won't repeat them at this time. But I will say, though, the hazards associated with these work practices align with OSHA's Focus 4 hazards of falls, electrocution, struck by, and caught between. The next group is the Data Collection Committee. The partners are voluntarily providing information on fatalities, injuries, illnesses, and near misses to NIOSH. The data is being analyzed for trends to develop hazard information and best practices going forward. Near misses, like in all industries, are valuable lessons learned. We have a communication committee, and that committee provides information from OSHA to the partners to keep them informed of current events, mainly through emails. Opportunities for outreach and attendance at conferences are also a function of this group. Our training committee is developing curriculum. They have I talked about the OSHA 10 and 30-hour course earlier, and then the compliance officer training or COSHA training. The best practices committee will also be producing informational products. We have, it's not on the screen, but we have a special committee that was carved out because it was a topic of real interest to everyone, the Confined Space Committee. They're exploring the topic. And then last, we have an evaluation committee, and that keeps us all on track to ensure the Alliance is meeting benchmarks. Next, please. So what have we accomplished so far? Well, the training committee moved fast, and they developed a 10-hour course, and now they've moved on to the 30-hour course that the OSHA certified trainers in your industry will be able to use. Now, there's also talk about a new hire orientation packet in the works. The communication committee continues to send out information about OSHA and Alliance happenings on a routine basis. The data committee has an analysis of injuries and fatalities that is about to be released. Dave said it's a really good product. He's proud of it. The best practices group has fall prevention documents for general industry and construction in the final stages of review. Lockout tagout is also nearing completion. And when I talk about review, what happens is the products are developed by the committee. They're sent up to the subject matter experts in the national office. They review them, make comments, send them back down to the committee. The committee works on them, and then in a final review, they're sent back up to the national office before they will be turned into products. The Confined Space Special Committee also has a draft flow chart for electrical traction elevator pit access. Next, please. So what happens next? Well, coming right around the corner here in early September, we'll be renewing the Alliance for 5 years. We would have liked to have had an in-person signing of it, but the pandemic will result in electronic signatures. We all got together this summer and we looked the work plan over and worked on it some so that we came up, have our projects all lined up for the next 5 years, and there's plenty to accomplish. We're going to continue to seek opportunities to meet with representatives in your industry. At your last NAEC conference, for example, labor liaison in Region 3, Jim Tui and I presented at your conference. By working together and bringing consistency to safety and health for your industry, our goal is the same as yours: send employees home at the end of each workday. And with that, any questions?
I have one for the moment, Sandra, and I do see
Okay.
that one came in. I'll hold that one till the end. One question that I have at the moment. So most of our member companies have, safety and health programs in place. Some may just be hearing about the Alliance now for the first time. Others may have kind of peripherally been aware of it, but maybe don't have a full understanding of it. So if, I'm a business owner or a business unit lead, can you maybe kind of elaborate on how you feel the Alliance can help them? Is it just training or is it something bigger than that?
Well, the products will be on our OSHA Alliance website and also on the partners' websites when they come out. And so what the companies will be able to do is they will be able to access those to develop it. And the goal of this really is that by providing the resources, it'll help everyone's programs come together, become more consistent, and bring consistency to your industry.
Thank you for that, Sandra. I do know there's at least one question for you towards the end, so we'll come back on that one. I see a few more coming in, which may also be for you as well. So we'll make sure we get back to those questions towards the end of the program. Thanks for sharing those insights, Sandra. Next on our panel is Patrick Bothwell with Draka EHC. Patrick is the Vice President, Global Sales and Customer Experience of Draka EHC, a brand of Prysmian Group. Draka EHC was established with the merger of Draka Elevator Products and EHC Global in January of this year. Based in Oshawa, Canada, hope I got that right, Patrick. Patrick is responsible for the management of global key accounts. Prior to the acquisition of EHC Global by Prysmian Group, Patrick served as Vice President of Sales. Patrick is a consummate sales professional and a passionate industry safety advocate. He is involved with numerous lift industry associations, including membership in the ASME A17 Standards Committee, and he is chair of the Escalator and Moving Walk Committee. Patrick, it's great to see you again. It's been a little while since we've been able to cross borders here, so good to see you again, my friend, and thanks for taking the time to join us, and I'll turn it over to you. You're still muted, Patrick, sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you to NAEC and also to our team for helping put our presentation today together. It was truly a collaborative effort. Let me get to the share screen. Thank you. Sorry, I need to get to the starting point. So let me just, there we go. So our discussion topics today are going to be safety hazards and field observations as we focus on escalator and elevator moving walk safety. If I can probably get to a better screen mode there, that works. Talk about the importance of safety awareness in the customer journey experience, a little bit about code and standards, short overview of our Safety Plus suite of products, and then some final thoughts. So as John mentioned, Draka and EHC are now stronger together as one global brand, a brand of the Prysmian Group. Thought we'd start with a bit of a game. It's the Where's Waldo edition of escalator safety. So just take a minute and see if you can spot any potential safety hazards here. Feel free to throw them in the chat. There's no prizes today, but except for bragging rights. Without further ado, let's talk about some of the hazards here. If we look over to the left-hand side of your screen, you see that the safety barricades are too low and create a risk. As per A17 code, the base of the barricade should be 40 inches from the floor. Wear and damage on some of the signage, if we look. Also fasteners having issues, being potentially hazards and risks. If we look at the combs, they need to be confirmed to make sure that we have no broken or missing teeth. We've got safety brushes, black in color, covering the yellow demarcations. Excessive signage on the barricades can also be confusing for riders and difficult to read due to size. Also, deck barricades appear to be missing on this side of this open atrium escalator. And there's a lot of talk going on at the the escalator and moving walk committee level about some further design elements that could be considered to further improve on open atrium escalator guarding. Handrails are black. They could have a motion indicator or a safety graphic along with them. When we look at the importance of signage, it's important to correctly select material, also the surface preparation. We start to see issues due to vandalism, exposure to weather conditions, cracking, damages, issues with missing graphics. So potentially you're getting into a code non-compliance situation that could be flagged on inspection by your AHJs. But we're also looking at possible risks of injury, property damage, forced shutdown of a unit, fines and penalties, and unfortunate lawsuits. So important as we focus on escalators that we take a holistic approach of what can be done proactively to improve the safety outcomes. Another key issue are deck barricades. When we look at shopping malls and the location of those deck barricades and where they should be placed, missing barricades, missing barricades between units are all key examples of escalator safety risks that we find when our technicians are visiting field sites. Combs, another big one. Cracked, missing teeth, inconsistent color, worn. These are issues that should be reviewed during your regular maintenance visits, on inspection, and remedied on a proactive basis. A large part of our business is the on-site splicing and field vulcanizing or molding of endless handrails on the job site. In this regard, our team has identified a number of key risks. Strain, so we do a lot of work on proper lifting techniques, as well as development of lightweight molds and tools that can be used on the job site safely by our technicians and our customers who also vulcanize themselves. Dropping tool risks, of course, safety boots, hard hats, mitigation there with PPE. If you've ever seen the handrail field splicing process happen real time, you know that you need some very good knife mastery. So we also have cut gloves as part of the PPE used on site. Molding equipment generates heat in excess of 200 degrees Celsius. And somebody will have to do the conversion in the chat for me. I know I've got some friends and family in the crowd. So we do use heat resistant gloves and train in safe lifting of the molds when they are warm. Trips and falls, a key safety issue not only for our personnel, given the specific rise-run ratio of an escalator versus a normal set of stairs. This is accomplished by training and lots of on-site work with our team members. Eye injuries, of course, we are using different grinding, polishing tools, buffing tools, important to wear safety glasses. Also important to know that have a proper understanding of electrical safety as we bring field vulcanization equipment to the job site. Inquired injury to the public is mitigated through proper barricading the escalator and ensuring that the unit is buttoned up when a technician is not on site. Some of our training, our field service trainees are subject to a minimum 6-week in-house training program for splicing both types of handrail, both rubber and thermoplastic. We focus on practical experience, cause and effect, procedures and failure modes associated with improper practices. Again, PPE, cut gloves, hearing and burn protection, as well as knife handling skills. From a functional perspective, we also have training of our team members on different escalator drive types and handrail tension theory and adjustment. While our technicians are not involved in adjusting the escalator itself directly, they like to take the opportunity to offer as a service some consultation on and making sure that the handrail is set up so that it can still be length adjusted and properly tensioned if need be. One of the great things that has come to DRACA EHC through our headquarters of the Prismine Group has been the Zero and Beyond Global Health and Safety Initiative. So this is impacting us at all levels of the plant, of all our plants in the field, through our executive offices around the world. Zero and Beyond is our mission. And it's a vision driven by values where we want to aim at building a culture of prevention that integrates safety, health, and well-being at work and beyond. Safety philosophy, key pillars, and protecting people not only at work, but also in all aspects of their lives. We want to think about safety in each and everything we do, and most importantly, for those we hold most dear. Also important, of course, is the journey of the riding public. When we look at code compliance as the driving factor of the requirements for escalator and elevator safety within North America, we create a culture of safety awareness. That's not all focused on mitigating risk, whether it be personal injury, property damage, or liability risk, but also at improving the flow of passengers and enhancing customer experience. We look at key factors that influence accidents on escalators. The top 3, of course, related to user behavior: falls and trampling under an extreme egress situation. We also see that there are high-risk groups involved. There are children, seniors, and those people who are riding an escalator or a moving walk under the influence. Quick stat here: in the US, 25,000 people in the general public were treated at hospitals due to elevator or escalator-related injuries in 2017. And that was a jump of 30% decade over decade. Some common causes of escalator injuries, all too familiar: the entrapment model, the key of avoiding the sides of the escalator and holding the handrail are important for all of us, especially to mitigate the risk of entrapment. Safety is a shared responsibility. Now, it's the responsibility of the code committees and the volunteers and the employees of ASME to develop new codes and standards. The AHJs in terms of enforcement, consultants, also the designers of equipment and how we place it in our buildings, the architects and the engineers, to the OEM manufacturers, to the component manufacturers and maintenance companies, all industry associations, inspectors, building owners and property managers, and also the general public. Safety is our common and shared responsibility. Some safety-related resources. I think we're all familiar with the A17 suite of codes and standards. Some key reference areas where we look at construction requirements in 613 of A17-1, signage, also maintenance, repair, and replacement. Important to generate a good, solid base of understanding. So if you don't have your latest code books, get onto asme.org and make sure you're keeping up to date with codes and standards. Also, the Field Employee Safety Handbook provides a number of great resources for escalator and moving walk barricades and other safety-related resources. Some of those resources here, again, source ASME, the Field Safety Handbook, available through Elevator World and NAEC, and some other examples of local jurisdiction health and safety manuals that are available in different jurisdictions. Rather quickly, an introduction to what we've done with our Safety Plus line of products. Safety Plus started as a handrail product with a safety message on it as a motion indicator. And through the last few years has developed into a full suite of Safety Plus products, which includes not only handrail, but also sterilization modules, safety brushes that complement your yellow demarcation lines on your steps, full line of safety signage, deck barricades, automated messaging system, as well as our service barricades. I'll leave it at that for now. Go very quickly into our final slides in the interest of time. And show a few reference examples of where we've attempted to improve the safety on escalators and moving walks, inclined ramps in this example as well, through handrail signage, enhanced signage, as well as yellow safety brushes. Some key partners in those initiatives with deck barricades. Overall, wanted to come across today that safety is not only a key to the customer journey, but also important in protecting our field personnel. Overall, user behavior is the leading cause of accidents. So the more we can introduce clear signage and communicate that to the public, the better off the industry will view itself moving forward. Overall, safety is a shared responsibility, and reinforcing that messaging is absolutely critical in everything we do. We are committed to mitigating risk through product innovation, as well as the shared development of codes and standards and participation in a number of industry safety standards. Important that we all go above and beyond the minimum code requirements to ensure the safety of our own employees and, of course, the riding public. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Just to follow up on some of the points that you made. First, I just want to, say thank you for actually incorporating some slides in there on the riding public, because we spend a lot of time on employee safety, and for obvious reasons, it's extremely important, but highlighting, kind of our duty to the riding public, I think is something that we also cannot lose sight of. So I think it was first or second slide you showed there where you had the pictures of the escalators and you had kind of safety violations all over the place. So what do you feel are maybe some of the most common, yet, at least in your example, possibly oftentimes overlooked escalator safety hazards that a service technician could encounter while in the field?
A lot of times, John, we see failures with respect to either barricades or signage being incorrect. And that's really key. We think there are some real opportunities in the industry to communicate better to the riding public. Another thing we often see and encourage our technicians to bring to the attention of lead mechanics is anything broken in terms of combs, steps, as well as safety brushes.
Great. Thanks for that, Patrick. I appreciate it. I'm going to introduce our final panelist. Next on our panel is Lou De Loreto. Lou has over 25 years experience in the safety industry, and Lou provides C-suite safety leadership to organizations with coaching and support, where safety is not only measured by the reduction of injuries, but also defined on how an organization speaks about safety. Through his organization, Elevate Safety Systems, he emphasizes to engage all levels of the organization by developing team members to be company safety ambassadors. By integrating programs and practices into the business, he feels you can emphasize sustainable continuous safety improvement. Lou has run and supported safety programs for small independent elevator companies up to and including the large multinationals. I've personally had the pleasure of working with Lou for a little over a year now in his role as the Vice President of Safety for American Elevator Group. And I have personally found that Lou has a very pragmatic approach to safety, which can oftentimes be very refreshing, specifically for field employees. His passion and energy for employee safety develops team members into company safety ambassadors, making safety part of the DNA of the organization. I'm excited that our NAEC community is getting a chance to be introduced to him, possibly for the first time to many of you. So Lou, thanks for being on the panel, and I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, John. I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak to the members, and just to point out some key, I think, talking points of all those of the panels, and I think they're spot on. And Dave, your topic of trust and communications and obviously leadership engagement is really important. And Sandra, the fact that we're really aligning some of the regulations with what we do in elevators, I do think we do it differently. I think will really help kind of get some more understanding of how we can comply. And then, moving from compliance, obviously, to commitment is really you want to be. And Patrick, spot on and really trying to do design work and engineering, because we'll always have some behavior challenges, but the better we can make the escalator and elevator smarter, I think that's really some well added time. So what I want to talk about today is I kind of want to talk about, it's important to have a safety culture, absolutely, but it's also important to have a safety program that's looking at the right things. And when I start talking to employees and companies, the first thing I always hear from them is they say, Lou, we're safe. We haven't had any really incidents, no major issues. So our program's really, really good. And what I always ask them, and really, whether you're a field employee, a supervisor, or an owner, is you got to ask yourself, are you safe or are you lucky? All right. And I can tell you that it just takes inches or seconds to really change and really understand where you are with a safety program. It's pretty fragile. And the next slide I use when I talk to mechanics or companies is really kind of get a sense to really take a look at where you are as an organization or as a safety program. And you can see on the left, right, when you look at that circle is relying a lot more on luck than they are in process, safety program. And the goal of a good safety program is always to continue to move to the right. We'll always have a piece of luck, I do believe, right? But really relying on process or solid safety program is important. And I'll ask the field person or even the company, So you have a good safety program. What are the things that you're doing that drive it? Can you list the 5 or 6 things that you think you're doing that's allowing you to have a few injuries? Or the question is, what are the things you see when you go to the field that tell you you've got a good safety program? And the last is, do you even know? And when I talk to a field mechanic and I go to the field, and if we're not using door wedge tools and we haven't tested stop switches, we're not locking out elevators or verifying power, even checking rigging, we know that there's a little more luck than process. And when I look at safety programs and, we've given just a bag or maybe not even a handbook, and that's really the extent of the program, well, that too can be really relied upon just only luck. So I always ask people to really stop, think, and really take inventory of their program so they can really have visibility. Is it luck or process? Some questions I'll ask is, really ask yourself, how well of a managed program do you have? Is it documented, right? Is there management systems, communications, inspections? If you had a serious accident today, right now, would your programs, your records, are all of those solid enough to mitigate any exposure if there were compliance issues? And of course, are you set to handle any financial risk if there were an incident? And Sandra's on the line, but if you had an unannounced inspection from an agency, what would that look like? What would they find? And now you get some more soft things, are, the efforts that you have in it. Does it show your commitment in protecting your field? And that's really at the culture piece. And more importantly is your leadership, your supervisors. Do they have the skills to even see at risk? And sometimes, walking by a hazardous condition, because you might not have the field experience, could even be worse. And the last two are really important. The training and the inspections, are they aligned to field risks? Are they clear? And are they really the ones that are helping you prevent injuries? So just some things I think that can help you measure the effectiveness of your program. So I say for companies that are brand new and sometimes don't know what they don't know, I just say start, right? Start somewhere. And I always look at, keep it simple, right? That the rules, tools, educate, and coach is a great place to start. Then the industry has a lot of the stuff at our fingertips, right? So we know we've got the rules, which is the NAEC Safety Elevator World Handbook. We've got the absolutes. So have those rules, and not just have them, but really, implement them, hand them out, make sure they're part of your program. And the second is tooling and PPE. Really do the look per department on what you have and what people need. Get buy-in, get feedback, but it's really important that we're equipped right to be even successful. And educate. A lot of times I'll see some training that might not even be field related. So the credibility around the safety training, if it doesn't fit what we do, we lose a little bit of value. So we've got things like the Toolbox app and the Toolbox book from Elevator World that I think are really, they help kind of bring the safety handbook to life and can be real valuable. And most important, and this is where I see a lot of opportunity, is no one's in the field looking. So getting out there and coaching and seeing what their issues are, getting the feedback and the observation is really essential, because after that, none of the other ones really matter unless it's really happening in the field. So the rules, tools, educate, and coach are important. For those that have heard me or been around some training, I really think the most important thing, if anything we do, is really to focus on these absolutes, and Dave mentioned them, right? For the last 100 years, right, if you looked at any serious injury or any fatality, it's in one of these 9 areas. And if we don't take advantage of understanding this exact rule and really learn from the past, then we'll always have a risk of these happening in the future. And when I look at this, I try to explain to people, if you apply the rules, tools, and educate and coach piece of it, one of the things that I like to focus on is really bringing those absolutes to life. We call it the safe 9. And it's one thing if you've got the absolutes, right? The rules are written there, but it's important to how you program around it. How do you make sure that those really have, they're living in your safety program? And on the right, you can see, having clear practices to support each rule, right? And the second is a tool, like making sure that everyone has the correct equipment and the PPE to comply with the absolute. There's no sense of issuing absolute if you haven't supported it with solid rigging, door wedge tools, lockout, tag out, meters. Otherwise, they can't be successful. So rules and tools are important. And the last piece is educate. So it's okay to have the rules and tools, but unless people see how to do it so they can mirror it, understand the expectation, ask questions, then you have a chance for missteps. And missteps with absolutes really add to the risk in the field. And I mentioned it before, again, it's the field observation, it's the coach. Getting out there, seeing what you have, what does good and bad look like, and really kind of actually recording it, right? So that out of all the visits you're doing, what's the common themes? Where's the work that we need to do to make it even safer? So again, the absolutes are really important. It's the high risk, and having sort of a program around it is also essential. And just the last slide is like, what are the few key takeaways or some, I'd say, observations? Really look at your safety program. Is it a transaction? Is it a check in the box? Are we doing safety just to do safety? Are you really doing it because you value your employee resource? You see that engagement in safety not only makes them safe, but makes them a better employee. Do you get really around it? Or is it we do it because we have to, or, like I say, a check in the box? So make sure that you really take a look at it and it's not a transaction. Establish your common rules. Where do you stand? I think it's really important for a safety program or the field to understand what's expected. If it gets too gray, then you really can't drive risk mitigation. So really establish what's important. And I say here, educate, don't just train. So sometimes we just train at people, but we don't educate to make sure they understand why we're doing things. Like, why are these things important? And really, if we miss the why, it's hard to kind of change the behavior in the field. So really emphasis the why. And I think someone said on one of the chats, like real pictures, like the more you can align your training with real world, whether it be field-based or real life situation, that's where we can make the connection. And the last point on the high risk, those absolutes really, unfortunately, we've learned the hard way. So not going and really focusing or emphasizing your program is a big miss. So go after that high risk, go after Safe 9, make sure you've got the right methods, you've integrated Safe 9 into what you're doing. It's not separate, but really understand where you are in the maturity of each one of those 9s. And then safety doesn't happen in the office. And I think sometimes we get handcuffed, we get, really in the laptop world. You've got to be in the field. It's where you can really understand where your risk is, get the feedback, good ideas, best practices, but also, lean and coach on people who might need it. And I'd say the last piece, and what I open with, is don't rely on luck, always drive the process. So let me stop sharing and give it back to you, John.
Thanks, Lou. You touched on it a number of times, but just from personal experience, I think it bears repeating again. One of the huge takeaways that I had when you and I started working together was kind of understanding that difference between, luck and really being safe or having the appropriate practices in place. And especially, when we've got technicians, particularly who have maybe been in the field for a while, and while they've been safe, if they're living in that luck area, then the law of averages as time goes on is going to kind of catch up to people, right? So just a real key takeaway that I've had, and I just wanted to bear it again for our audience. Question for you. So if I'm in a company, maybe that's in that area that I just spoke about, or maybe I'm in a company or a business unit who's looking to get a program off the ground or improve an existing program. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, take your phone and go out in the field and go to all the job sites you can to really understand what you have, like baseline where you really think you have the need. And sometimes we start building a program, but we've never started in the field to know what we have. So the first step I always talk to or even do is I don't even look at any piece of paper or anything training. I just want to see what's happening out in the field. And, the absolutes are a good tool, understanding the elevator world handbook. There's simple forms and things, but really kind of going out and getting a real sense of what the baseline is. Then you can step back and talk about some of the program needs. But I think visibility in the field is the first start.
Great, thanks. We've got about, 17 or so minutes left. We have had some questions that have kind of been coming in the Q&A window. Trip, if it's okay, I'll just start at the top. It looks like all of our presenters are back with us. Sandra, I believe the first question is for you, but I will open it up to others if appropriate. Is OSHA contemplating a new chapter in its regulations specifically for elevators?
Not at this time. We would like to. A lot of other industries would like to have chapters devoted to their industry also. But, everyone knows with OSHA, it takes a long time to get standards promulgated. And you look how long it took for confined space, And so what our hope is with the Alliance is that we'll be able to develop the practices and the culture towards safe workplaces by working collaboratively together.
Great, thank you for that. Second question, which looks like it could potentially be for any of our panelists. Are elevator pits in an occupied building, such as office, hotel, hospital, etc., considered permit required confined space? And if so, why? I don't know who wants to take that one.
I can give some general feedback to it because it's kind of a ongoing discussion. But I think if you look at a clear definition from OSHA, you can find out that space isn't typically designed for normal occupancy, right? So we kind of start there. And I think what the industry is trying to work at is understand that space clearly. What's the risk associated with it? And then if through history of actually recording air and managing hazards, then you reclassify it. So I think, Dave, you can add to it, but I think the discussion now at the industry is how do we collectively work through, they're not all created equal, right? And you never know if one of those elevators is close to a garage where you could get CO. So it's really understanding that space, having the history and data and understanding what the risk is, and then making sure that you've actually, done the right checks before someone goes in. And I think the goal is to know the space and then reclassify it if you've got the right data.
Yeah, this is one of the areas that the Alliance is really taking some painstaking time in trying to evaluate. And you're right, Lou, it's not a cookie cutter. Each elevator pit or each type of equipment adds a different layer of what you're going to have to do to make it just a confined space and not a permit confined space. So, I mean, if you look at electric traction elevator, you follow the lockout tagout procedures that were mentioned earlier by Sandra that the Alliance has worked on, single car. You can get into that pit and eliminate a lot of the hazards, and you can say it's just a confined space. But when you get into some more complex issues, which we're working on right now with the hydraulic elevators, it's going to be tougher. And right now we're working on all that as the Alliance. Sandra, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's a great answer because, you know, I said I would give the lawyer's answer. It depends. You know, a lot of times, and it depends on being able to characterize the space and the history of the space also. So I think you guys pretty much covered it.
Okay. Trip, if you don't mind, I'm going to continue kind of working in the Q&A window, and I see some things kind of happening in the chat window too. So if you could help me with that, and then I will try to bounce over to you shortly here. Next question I have is, I will try to paraphrase here. Organization tries their best to follow all safety plans and OSHA regulations. If OSHA follows or shows up on site, then they feel that they come down harshly. What I don't know, what are the feelings maybe around that? I know in my region, we have a partnership with ABC, Southeastern Pennsylvania, and OSHA, in which we do some non-enforcement audits. I don't know if that is strictly in my region or if that's available elsewhere. But Sandra, maybe I'll let you try to answer that.
I think that question is definitely mine. You know, when we understand the angst that showing up unannounced causes during an OSHA inspection. We're an enforcement agency, but at the same time, one of the best things an employer could do is get to know their area office. You know, form those relationships, with your people on the site, and have the best safety and health program you can have. You know, because if you have a lot of hazards eliminated, then you can say, you know, welcome to the site. We think we do a great job. And I would also say, you know, if you're approached, you know, we did the inspection process before. In fact, that was the virtual. It was at your last NAEC conference. You know the inspection process, know what to expect, and you'll be great. You can also call a labor liaison. You know, like I said, if there's a lot of problems, you can contact the area director. Every OSHA inspector should be professional. And so those are the tips I would offer.
Excellent, thank you. Last question I have in the Q&A window, and then Trip, I'm going to jump over to you and see if there's anything of note in the chat window. This is directed to Lou. And the question is that, do you feel all accidents are preventable?
Well, I've done my career in thinking that they are. I can tell you, I can't know of one incident where when you do the full investigation, you don't learn something and truly find a way it could be prevented. Whether it be how we organize, how we tool, how we educated or didn't educate, but there's always a management system and always something that could have been done better to prevent an accident, 100%.
I'd like to follow up with Lou on that a little bit. Any accident is preventable, but we find there's a lot of complacency. It seems like the older the population of mechanics get, the luckier they feel, and it doesn't happen to them. It never happens to me. And one of the ways that we're going to have to get around that, because protocols, procedures aren't being followed, is coming up with better engineering to engineer out the protocols. That's the only way we're really going to get ahead of this.
Sorry, I had one other that came in that I didn't see. I'll just go through it. Last one I have here. For the safety of users, what does a contract that says we will provide trained and qualified mechanics mean? Do companies limit their inventory to units that they have experience to maintain? I am finding there is no equipment training at all companies taken on all types of units. A training opportunity for retiring mechanics familiar with older systems is an opportunity. Any panelists have anything to say about that?
I think a lot of companies, especially with the licensure for states and the continuing education requirements that are around those, that there are companies doing the training, whether it be with the old TAC controllers, the newer Galaxies, the Virginia controls. They're all providing some level of training that they come to your facility, or you can go somewhere to get you the technical training. So more and more that is moving forward, and you're going to see a lot more of it in the future.
Great, thanks. Trip, any other questions that you are aware of that have come in? We have about 8 minutes, 7 minutes left in our allotted time
There really are
today.
no questions over in the chat. Lots of compliments for a great presentation for each of the individual presenters. Diller did offer the solution to the math problem that Lou offered. 200 degrees Celsius is 392 Fahrenheit. So there's your math answer for the day. Salvador, I encourage you to connect with Sandra offline about the OSHA presentations. Otherwise, let's see, any interesting discussion in the industry about recertification or continuing education for technicians. This is from Gary Coltsman.
I think we just talked about that a little bit, about the recertification, continuing education. A lot more of the contractors or vendors or suppliers are starting to come up to speed with a lot more. I know there's some things that NAEC is working on with the suppliers for workshops, educational workshops. It'll be all over the country. They're working hard for next year. There might be one there is going to be one in New York working with Vantage in November that they're trying to put together as a test or a precursor to see what it's going to look like. So there are things coming up in the future for industry training, for recertification, for licensures and QEI and things of that nature. I know on the one that you just mentioned, Trip, for Sandra about the OSHA trainer, if you're an OTI instructor, those classes that were developed for the 10-hour and 30-hour for the general industry and construction will be made available. They're going to be on the OSHA Alliance website. I know that NAEC is trying to put it to a link to and host it on our site as well. Trip's working on that. Hopefully by sometime in September, that'll be available that you can get right from our website at NAEC. And again, I don't know what the timeline is, but we put everything over there. And when Trip gets some time to piece it together, hopefully it'll be available to you in September.
All right, great. So I think just kind of out of respect for everybody's time and an attempt to start on time, end on time, we have come to the end of this town hall event. I appreciate everyone that joined us today. And I especially appreciate the panelists that have shared their time and expertise with us today. We will be holding one more town hall event like this one in 2021 and towards the end of the year. So look for those announcements soon. I'd like to thank everyone for coming and hope to see everyone in New Orleans.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
See everyone later.